Hello, so today we're going to be going over econ in TFT. I'm going to be trying to stress the importance of gold, as well as how to generate gold and why it's really important to generate gold early. This is going to be more for beginners. It's a beginner's kind of intro guide to kind of stress the importance of econ management so that you kind of develop some good habits and maybe make some of your games a little bit easier if you're especially struggling with TFT feeling too slot machine-y. A lot of times the best way to overcome that is by managing your econ really well. Without much further ado, let's get started. Before we do though, I want to say thank you. We reached 1,000 subs. We reached it way faster than I thought. I don't know, I got like a really big bump. I guess it's like the arcane buff right now and people are checking out my channel a little bit, but I'm super grateful. Thank you for stopping by on my little channel. We're gonna do an RP giveaway. I do these every like major breakpoint. I'm gonna give you guys lots of information on how to do it, but basically it's gonna come down to like join the Discord, go in the giveaway channel. I'll have that information in subsequent videos. I just have to like record that little like excerpt so I can add it to all the videos for the next week or so. And don't worry, you won't miss it. Just stay tuned is all I will say about that. And now let's get to the guide. So gold in TFT. So what is gold? What is this thing that I'm talking about? It's basically what you use to roll, it's what you use to buy units, and it's what you use to level up. Gold is the main interaction that you have with TFT. This thing right here, the richer you are, the better you will be able to interact and play around with the game mechanics. If you think about gold, it is the main way to reduce variance. In TFT, there's obviously going to be a level of variance. You're rolling, there's like a slot machine aspect, you have to buy stuff, you know, sometimes you'll hear people, they high rolled, sometimes they low roll, of course, right? Like, it's not purely like, it's not like chess, where it's like a pure deterministic, like this move is good, or this thing I can do. There's like an element of fuzziness of like, I roll, I might hit, I might not, etc. But the way to reduce that is to have more gold, right? If you have more gold, you can level up and still have gold to roll. If you have more gold, you can buy more units, upgrade them, not have to worry about other stuff, right? And the main thing is, if you have a lot of gold, you can roll, right? If you want to play a strong unit, let's say there's one unit that's very, very strong. Who's gonna hit that unit? Of course, some people can high roll into it, but if you have a lot of gold, that's a better way to guarantee that you hit the units that you want. Because like, imagine if you had infinite gold. If you had infinite gold, it would just come down to how fast you can roll in order to actually find the units. So it's very, very important, and I cannot stress it enough. A lot of times, if you're feeling like you're playing your game and you're like, it's a 50-50, I either hit or I don't, this game sucks. You know, maybe it's not the game for you. Of course, you should be playing a game if it gives you fun and enjoyment and stuff like that. There's many patches I don't play because I don't find the game fun, right? And then there's some games I play a lot, like the current patch that I kind of liked. But the main thing is that you want to manage your goal. It's a skill that you have to try and start developing as early as possible. So now we're going to go through it. Just in general, how do you get gold in TFT? So there are 4 or 5 different ways. Basically you get gold per round. In the first couple of rounds you get 2, 3, then 4 gold, but eventually you're basically just earning 5 gold per round. Just being in a round, whether you win or you lose, you get 5 gold. There is interest, which can be up to 5 gold generated per round. This is the main one that we have to focus on because this is very, very interactable. Making interest thresholds is very, very important in TFT, and we're going to talk about it in this guide. And then you also gain a gold for winning a round, as well as streaking, right? If you consistently, repetitively win or lose streak, then you will get additional gold with those resources. Streak gold is very hard to manage because obviously you're like in a lobby with multiple other players, so like it's hard to keep track of what everybody's doing and decide whether or not you can win every time or lose every time. There's an RNG aspect to it, but streak gold is very, very important. If you have the opportunity to streak, you should always try. Additionally, there's other drops, right? Things like Scuttle Puddle, things like orb drops, like neutral rounds, and as well as augments. There's some augments that just strictly give you rerolls or gold, and they can both be treated kind of like econ augments in the fact that like they give you like gold or gold equivalents. Just in case we have to cover all our bases, for like, you know, if somebody's really new, basically here is where it shows where your gold is. Right? I know this is very beginner. This is where it shows like your streak. If you hover over your gold, it will then give you a breakdown of how much gold you can make per round, and it will basically be what the previous slide was. And then here, based on the skins, is how you see where your econ interval or your interest intervals are. You can earn up to 5 interest. Basically, every 10 gold that you have, translates to one of these orbs, which gives you +1 gold at the end of the round. You can also look at other people's boards. If you scout other people's boards, you will see how much interest they are earning. It helps give you an illustration or an idea of how much money they have, which can help you plan on, are they greeding, what is their strategy. It's a really important thing to also look at, is to try and figure out, okay, let's say they have 3 interests. That means they have in their bank around 30 gold. Therefore, you can judge, okay, I'm at 40 gold, I'm doing better than them in terms of money because I have more interest than them. That's something you should also look at and try and compare to, because it also matters yourself relative to others. Some galaxies or some portals, everybody has a bunch of gold, like Scuttle Puddle. So if it's Scuttle Puddle, making 50 gold is a given, and it's not that big of a deal, right? Everybody's gonna have good econ. But in other portals, they don't give you any gold, and then it's important to see, like, okay, am I actually in a good spot, or is my spot really bad relative to other people? That's another thing just to keep track of as we go through this. Anyways, let's talk about interest for a second. So why should you make interest, or making interest, why is it important? So basically, when you make interest, you have to try and make different interest intervals, right? Every 10 gold is an interest interval. So basically, you try and make to 10. When you make 10 gold, it's basically going to be like a +1. When you make 20, it's going to be a +2. When you make 30, it's going to be a +3. And then 40, +4. And then 50, +5, right? What you want to do is you always want to speed run. I want to say, I'm going to write here, speed run 50 gold, right? You always want to speed run your way to 50 gold as soon as possible, because you want to be making as much money per round as possible. That's the main thing with interest. You always want to be making it to 50 gold. You want to race to 50 gold. You don't want to delay making 50 gold. And I'll show you why. This is a little bit of an illustration. This is the amount of gold that you would be earning from interest over time. So as you can see, the orange line is like the best case scenario, right? So that's like you start the game off, you're immediately making 10 gold, so it's +1. Then you make 20 gold, so it's a +2. Then you make 30 +3, 10 +4. And then after that, all of these are +5, right? So you can see by the numbers, that's what's going on. Basically, I'm imagining a perfect world where you start with 10 gold, then you make 20, 30, 40. You make every econ interval. So every single turn, you either sell units on your board, or you make enough gold that round to make it to the next threshold. And then you end up with this much gold after 10 rounds, which is approximately like stage 2 to stage 3, right? As a rough approximation, obviously. This is another example. The blue is like one of the worst examples, which is like you just don't make econ for the first couple of rounds, right? So basically it just says 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then you have the same climb of +1, +2, +3, +4, +5. You'll see at the end of this, one person is ahead by 25 gold over the other person. All that happened was this round, they didn't make econ intervals. Maybe they upgraded units on their board. Maybe you were pushing levels. Maybe they were rolling for something, rolling for units, stuff like that. Making early econ intervals is really important, because every econ interval that you miss effectively means that in the future, you're making 5 gold less per round for each of those rounds. As you can see, I missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 econ intervals, and I am down 5 times 5 equals 25 gold on somebody who played in a very greedy way. That adds up a lot over time. Let's say I make 0, 0, 0, then I make 1, 1, then I make 2, 2, then I make 3, 3. Every round that you're not making 50 effectively is -5 gold. That's what this is, and it's to show an illustration so that you can kind of think about that and how important it is. Because if someone has 25 more gold, imagine if you have 25 more gold and you're rolling on level 8 odds, you're trying to find a 4 cost, right? That's the difference between rolling 30 gold and rolling 50 gold. 25 gold, it's like the difference between rolling 50 gold and rolling like 80 gold. Somebody could be level 9 on your ass before you even have enough gold to hit 1 copy of a 4 cost. And it all comes down to like your early game and making the interest as early as possible to make 5 gold every single round after that. So econ is important, right? Early econ is the most important because you want to generate that bank to get 5 gold per round. You want to win streak and lose streak when possible. And a lot of times you don't want to drop below 30 gold. This is especially important with reroll lines. Now, why don't you want to drop below 30 gold? You never really want to drop below 30 gold because 30 gold effectively gives you 3 gold per round, right? You get 5 gold per round just for being in the game. Remember, we talked about that. So this is effectively 8 gold per round, right? Just by making econ of 30. It's very easy to then just from 8 gold make 10 gold which will get you to the next econ interval, right? Which will get you to 40, which will then get you to 50. Right, a lot of times you'll hear streamers, especially if you watch somebody like Soju, right, they'll just like say really fast like blur of words like 30 makes 40 makes 50. So this is actually not 1 gold, this is like 20 gold, right? This, like, I'm not gonna hold this unit, like this 3 cost isn't really a 3 cost, it's like a 5 cost because it costs like too much more gold. The reason they're saying these things is basically like what they're trying to say is like, if you can make the econ interval of 30, it's very easy to make it to the econ interval of 40, and it's very easy to make it to this. Like there's a technically a viral video, I don't want the technical Andes to be in chat saying that it should never not be 30 gold, you should never drop below 32 gold because 32 plus 8 equals 40. It's like, yes, I can do math, but like a lot of times there's like streak gold. It's better for like a beginner to just like understand the concept of like 30 is easy to make 40, easy to make 50. So that's why I'm saying that. And equivalently, that's why like sometimes like, you know, buying units in shop and upgrading units, if you're not at a point where you're making econ thresholds and you're not making interest, sometimes you have to really make that decision. Do I upgrade this unit or do I not upgrade this unit? Because if you upgrade the unit and it drops you below 30 and then you're only making 28, there's no chance you're ever going to make it to 40. This is impossible. And then there's no chance you're ever going to make it to 50. And now that, because you upgraded that one unit, you better be win streaking. Because if you don't win, if you upgrade a unit and you don't win and you don't make econ, then you're just throwing away gold. Because every round that you're not making econ intervals, what happens? You don't make 5 gold in the future. You're losing 5 gold per round. Every single round that you don't make an econ interval, you're losing 5 gold in the future. So, now we're just going to show 2 quick examples and then we're going to end the video. I'm trying to blaze through this as fast as possible. I don't want it to be too long because I've been really pumping out some long-ass videos with some of these guides. But I'm just going to give you 2 separate little strategies, win streak and lose streak, and kind of what it looks like. These are going to be like the extreme examples, and then you kind of have to infer and apply it to your own games the best way that you can. So win streaking, it's often difficult and very high roll. It's a sometimes food, right? You can't just like open up a game and say, GG, I'm going to win streak today. I'm him. I win streak in this lobby. No, win streaking is not something you can do consistently. It's like, if you have the units and you're stronger than everybody else and you scout and everybody's weaker and you have good items early, then you can play a win streak, right? When you play a win streak, you also have to keep in mind that sometimes you have to spend some gold to keep that streak, right? You're more incentivized to play very aggressively. You want to push levels, you want to upgrade units, right? At this point, when you're win streaking, sometimes econ from interest, right? I'll put like interest, becomes a bit fuzzy. Right? The reason it becomes fuzzy is because you're better off like a lot of times leveling or upgrading units, even if it costs you like a certain econ interest threshold, because the streak gold is going to be so much more. So you're always incentivized to keep that streak if you're already win streaking. And then the only problem with win streaking is obviously what happens is a lot of times you're going to be high HP. And you're technically, a lot of times when you're win streaking, you're going to be lower econ. Just because of the fact that you're playing aggressively to keep that win streak. So a lot of times you're playing very tempo based, right? You're just trying to push levels, push things, be ahead of the lobby, try and force the lobby to try and match your tempo. And then often it ends up into a bleed out. So you have to be careful not to like run yourself into a hole, right? If you play tempo too fast, then you might not have enough gold to hit the proper units that you need. Right, like let's say like you win streak, and then you're like, I can make it to 9 next turn. Then you level to 9, you don't have any gold anymore. Then like over the next 5 rounds, you have no gold because you tempoed too hard. Like you always have to make sure that you're still playing relative to the strength of the lobby, right? You can't just assume, okay, I just go straight to 9 and then I'll go straight to 10 and then I'll hit all of the cool units and I'll win. Because like if you don't hit the units, you still need the gold to hit the units and stuff like that. So you still have to manage your econ. But that's what I mean by you have to tempo into like a bleed out a lot of the times, or you tempo into like just a straight win out if you're really high rolling. So example video of this. I'm just going to show you my early game and then what I do at some of the stages. So it'll be very fast, don't worry. Let's go this. Let's go this. Let's go this. Let's go. Yeah. Alright. So this is a video where I start the game off with a win streak. I start the game off with the bruisers, right? Bruisers are pretty good. I believe in bruisers like for early game a lot of the time because just having a bunch of HP makes it hard for the opponent to deal with. A lot of times if you're win streaking, it's usually because you have upgraded units and a really good augment or really good items. You have to high roll some aspect of the game early game in order to actually have the ability to win streak. Here Basically, I hit heavily smash, which is a bruiser augment. The reason I took it, so here I'll explain like my augment choice, if that makes sense. I scout around, right? As you can see, I'm scouting. I look around, everybody's board that I scouted looks like absolute dog shit, right? I'm straight up gonna tell you guys, I looked around, they all look like dog shit. Maybe to you they might not, but to me, I'm like, these guys, they all don't have a good opener. So I see heavily smash. I don't know if this augment's super good. I'm not saying it's broken, take it all the time, but what it does is it gives my bruisers extra health. It gives my bruisers extra damage based on the amount of health that they have. I already have a bruiser opening, and it also gives me a trundle. If you notice, watch when I click this augment. When I click the augment, what happens? Oh my god, trundle got upgraded. That's basically what I looked at. Is I looked around, I said everybody's board looks kind of ass. This set unit is very strong, right? I'm pretty confident that set is one of the better opener units. Ooh, sorry, I have a double inking. I'll remove that real fast. So set's really strong, so I'm pretty confident that I can play around the set really well, and this upgrades my trundle, so it makes me inherently stronger. It's also a pretty good combat. I've taken it once before, I think in PBE, and I was like, okay, this seems like it's a pretty good thing to take on stage 2. It's a lot of damage because I don't have to rely on inconsistent backline unit. I'm playing the powder, so I get the extra shielding on the trundle, and then I can put scrap on the trundle, which the scrap also gives the trundle a completed item, so I don't even have to like slam one item in particular. I can greed and play around another line. Typically with bruisers you play Twitch, so I can greed for Twitch items, and what ends up happening is I just win out a lot of these stages, right? So you'll see I'm just winning. I'm playing 2 trundles instead of the stab because I think they get the scrap shield, so I think 2 trundles is better. As you can see, they both get a little bit of shielding. Trundle's just really good at doing damage. Most people aren't playing strong boards, right? This board doesn't look particularly strong, but in context, I'm the strongest player in the lobby. That's like the important thing to note. I scouted, I saw there's one guy that has what doesn't kill you. This guy is scoreboard scrapper. So there's 2 people that are trying their hardest to lose streak in the lobby. And then there's the rest of the lobby that didn't seem that strong. So the spot that I was in is a little bit high roll. It's not particularly like amazing. It's not like I have like the craziest. It's not like I have a Swain 2 or some crazy shit on my board. I just have a trundle. But it's good enough to win streak in this lobby, so that's why I'm playing towards it. Then you look here. This is stage 2-5. So what I could do is I could just make 20 gold, right? If you look at my bench, I can sell 1 or 2 of the units on my bench, and I can make 20 gold. Remember, it's really important to make those early econ intervals, right? I already upgraded units, and I'm holding all of these unit pairs because I want to play a strong board. I already missed some econ intervals, right? I'm only making 10 gold in these last 3 rounds. I'm not making 20, I'm not making 30. Here, though, I do not make 20. What I do is I level. Why? Because I scout again. There's that guy that's pretty strong, but everybody else doesn't look that strong. This guy I think I can beat. This guy I think I can beat. The only person that I don't think I can beat is 1 person in the lobby. So out of the 4 chances, I'm pretty sure leveling here is the correct decision. Why? I just play extra units. Playing the extra units, see, I play double trundle. They both get a health shield because of scrap, so they have a little bit more tankiness. I feel more confident about having them than Steb, for example. I have 2 sets, which this unit is very, very strong. He has a stun, and he does a lot of damage, especially with the bruiser trait. I don't make 20 gold here. The reason I don't make 20 gold here is because I am 3 streaking, and I want to continue streaking. It's more worth it to continue streaking because the gold that I miss from making econ interval, I make up with the streak gold. That's what happens a lot of times when you're tempo. It's why you can sometimes run yourself into a hole. Because imagine if I lost this round. If I leveled and I lost this round, then I'm neither making 20, nor am I making my win streak gold. That's why you have to be very careful. Here I high rolled into the Nunu, so now I'm actually very strong. As you can see, I switched my board and I play 4 bruiser. So now I'm probably going to guaranteed 5 streak. This game does end up being a little bit high roll because I hit an Elise. I think I also hit a Twitch at one point. Yeah, I hit a Twitch and an Elise really early. So I just tempo, and that's how I continue my 100 streak. But as you can see, right, I'm still not making 50. The reason I'm delaying making 50 is because I'm still win streaking, right? I'm getting plus 3 gold per round with this. It's a lot better than me selling all of these units, making 50, and then losing the plus 3 gold, right? The difference between 40 gold and 50 gold is effectively 1 gold, right? If I'm making 3 gold per round, it's better to keep the win streak going. That's what I'm trying to explain. So that's what happens a lot of times when you're win streaking. As you can see, I just continue to win streak. I continue to tempo. And as you can see, by the time I make it to level 8, this is like a 4-2. I'm just skipping ahead a little bit. you'll see that my econ is really good. Now, I did win streak the whole game, but as you can see, I'm 4-1, level 8, 40 gold, really, really strong, right? The reason that my econ is fine is because I was able to compensate for not making those early interest thresholds by keeping the win streak going, right? And as you can see here, I level a turn early. The reason I level early, two reasons. Number one, I had slamming, so it is a good interval to level. And number two, I'm still making 40 and I'm keeping my 10 win streak. That's what I mean by playing tempo. Certain comps allow this a lot better, but when you're win streaking, you want to continue to try to win streak. Now, you have to be very, very careful about this, because if you do something like I was doing in this game and you just level and then you lose the round, you just shot yourself in the foot. Then you just convert a good spot into a really bad spot. You have to be sure about these things. Sometimes you have to let go. You just have to let go of your win streak. You have to say, okay, these other people hit some crazy shit. I'm not winning anymore. I might as well make my interest gold. And you have to make that decision at one point in the game. Next, we're going to go back to the slides. And we're going to talk about loss streak. So, loss streak. This one, however, like, you know, I'm talking about this, how it's like difficult, it's like whatever. Loss streak is very easy and consistent. The reason is that to lose a round, it's very easy to throw a round. You just get rid of your units. You just don't put an item on them. You just sell the units, right? Like, it's very simple. It's very consistent. There's some players that make it like their life mission that every single game they just go for loss streak because of how consistent it is. A lot of times, especially with rerolls, you lose streak early to establish a really good bank. Then with that bank, you do your reroll, and then with the reroll, you cap out and you win out later. And it's like a really good synergy. Additionally, you can also lose streak into play 4 cost, but it also requires careful planning, right? The same way that you need to plan out around your win streak, you have to plan out around your lose streak, right? You don't want to necessarily just open sell your whole board, because then you'll lose a lot of HP and you'll probably just die before you even get a chance to play the game. So you want to play some units, and then you have to decide based on what you scout in the lobby, how many units can I play, how can I minimize my losses, because you want to try and not lose by too many units, because the less units you lose by, or the less surviving units your opponent has, the less HP damage you get, right? So like if they have only 1 surviving unit, you take a minimum loss, but if they have like 5 surviving units, you basically take like +5 player damage per round or some shit. It's really bad, so you want to be careful about that. And then the big thing about lose streaking is that, especially for beginners, I was like this as well. Whenever I say beginners, I say it in an endearing way. I don't want you to ever feel offended or in any way, shape, or form. I started the game and I was dog shit, right? I didn't like come out the womb and I was like a master level player. You know, like I played the game and I sucked for a really long time. Well, I don't know how long, but like, you know, I sucked until I made it to like whatever rank that I thought was decent enough to start making YouTube content. It's a part of learning, right? And I remember when I was in bronze and silver, having to convert from a lose streak is very difficult, because you're basically putting a lot of pressure on like 1 or 2 very narrow rounds where you have to basically spend all this gold that you've been accumulating. That's a skill that comes with time, so don't get disheartened if that happens to you. If you lose a bunch of rounds, then you try and roll down all your gold, you don't hit your units, and then you feel really sad. That's normal, right? It's part of a skill that will get better. The thing is, if you have a bunch of gold, you just have to, and you know how to play flex really well. I made a flex guide, by the way, in case you want to look at that. Then you start to get better at doing those roll downs and having like multiple options, you know, figure out how to play it, and then convert that to a win. But I will say that lose streaking, I find, compared to win streaking, which just feels like a high roll, if you dedicate yourself to a lose streak, it is quite difficult a lot of the time. So you should always take that into account. If we talk about a lose streak game, I'm going to pop open a little VOD right here to show you some stuff. Let's go bang. So in this game, this is a Scuttle Puddle game. So everybody's going to be really rich. Now, technically when it's Scuttle Puddle, it's kind of like diminishing returns to take Econ augments. Here I took an Econ augment. This is what doesn't kill you. So if you don't know what this augment does, is that every turn that you lose a round, you gain 2 gold, and for every 4 losses, you gain a component. So the way I looked at it is like, I just want to be really rich, I want to be really far ahead, and I want to force towards some sort of AP line with my AP items. I look around, it seems like in Scuttle Puddle, typically boards are going to be more swollen. Because everybody has a lot more gold, they're going to be a lot better at making a strong board. But I basically commit to this early lose streak because I look around and I see that based on my opener, it doesn't look like I'm going to be particularly strong. so I know I can't win streak, and I'd rather just streak gold. So I took this. My gold augments that I was offered weren't the greatest, in my opinion. Like, I didn't have a good combat. I didn't have anything that was very, like, you know, besides ones that felt very RNG or very hard forcing. I said I might as well take this, just make a bunch of shit ton of gold, and I'm just gonna purposely lose every round. As you can see, what did I do? I made 10. It's Scuttle Puddle, so it's a little bit easier to make Econ. I made 20, and as you can see, I'm selling extra units, and I'm making 30. I have a Rel on my bench, by the way. Look, I have a Rel 2. Why is the Rel 2 on my bench? Because when I scouted, there was one person I was scared that I would beat. So I want to make sure that I lose all these rounds because I'm trying to 5 loss here. I'm basically just committing to it. A lot of it is because of my augment, right? When you're committing to a lose streak, you have to be very careful that you don't lose by too much. Sometimes it's even, I would say, at least for beginners, sometimes it's good to just inconsistent streak. Streaking is very hard because if you lose streak and you lose all your HP, you sometimes just run yourself into a spot where you just instantly lose the game to like one singular high roller. It's very hard to manage HP, right? And if you're win streaking, sometimes you run yourself into a spot where you just run out of gold because you were pushing levels and you're trying really hard to keep your win streak when you shouldn't have been trying to keep your win streak. So a lot of times you'll see, even in my games, I opt for like inconsistent streaking. A lot of times that happens if the lobby is really like, you know, if one person is Chem Baron and there's 2 people that are 100 streaking, a lot of times it's like there's nothing you can do. You're going to inconsistent streak. So then you just focus on making interest. But just for sake of example, because I have an augment that incentivizes me to continue losing, I'm going to make sure that I full lose as many rounds as possible to cash out as much value from this augment as I can. Now I put in the Rel, and I put in Rel with TG. I'm level 4. Most people are level 5. I scouted. I should be stronger than most. I should be weaker than most of the lobby still. This guy has a goddamn Silco, so you know I'm sure as hell not beating him. He has a Rel 2 and a Silco. I'm trying to mitigate my losses. As you can see, I'm 5 loss. I think the other guy wasn't 5 loss, but he has around the same HP as me, or maybe he is also 5 loss. I can't remember. But either way, I basically play this. I end up taking like double econ. I end up taking, bulky buddy, so I get a lot stronger in my mid game. So basically, I lost until 3-1. So on 3-1 is a 6 loss streak. So I got my maximum streak gold because it caps out at 6. At 6, you get +3 for the streak. And here I end up spiking my board a little bit because I'm able to make it straight to level 7 with bulky buddies, which is a combat augment, so it spikes my board. I have 4 sentinel. And I've converted the board, right? Now, if I didn't convert the board, I would probably spend a little bit of gold to turn the ship around, right? As you can see, I am definitely the lowest HP in the lobby. There's a guy with 90 HP. I am down -30 HP. Obviously, finding the Heimer was a bit high roll. But even if I didn't find the Heimer, I want to try and start turning the ship around. I want to stabilize. I want to push some levels. I want to make sure that I'm in a good spot because if I lose too many of these rounds, the game will be over and I'll just be dead before we even get to wolves. I'll die, right? So if you don't have some upgrades or a little bit of high roll at this point in the game, sometimes it's useful. The same way with like win streaking, it's useful to like spend some gold to keep your win streak. Here you want to spend some gold to just stabilize your board so you're not just dying every single goddamn turn. So what did I do? I was able to push it to level 7. With the level 7 odds, I hit a Heimer. If I didn't have a Heimer, I was hopefully going to play around like maybe Swain with these items would be strong enough to maybe win a couple rounds. And I basically just turned the ship around, right? This is a VOD review that I'm going to do probably later today. So if you want to see the full video of this one and how this game ends up, it actually ends up in a very exciting way. Make sure to like and subscribe, and then you'll see the ending of this video. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to show anything else of here because we're actually going to talk about it after because it was a very fun game, what it ended up being. But anyways, last slide. This one's just for your resources. I'm just going to go through it very fast. Important spending rounds. So whenever you think about rounds that are very, very important, you can maybe take a screenshot of this if you don't know these things already. But usually people kind of follow the same kind of patterns. The reason there's important spending rounds is that you have to buy gold in 4 XP at a time. Right, or so you have to buy XP and 4 gold at a time, right? So this always costs 4 gold. Because of that, there's certain rounds where it's a really good moment to level up in particular, right? That's what governs a lot of people's decision on when to level up. You often hear like, oh, level 8, you go to level 4-2 and then you roll. The reason is that 4-2, the number of XP is perfectly divisible by 4, so you can buy it without having extra gold overspilling. And not having that gold overspilling is really important because basically if you overspill, because you only buy gold in intervals of 4 gold, or sorry, 4 XP, that 2 gold is like an extra shop roll, or it's an extra unit that you could have bought. So it's just inefficient. And if you follow to level on certain rounds every single game that you play, it makes it a lot easier, because you'll just find that, like, you know, on average, you're just saving gold, right? Because the gold that you could be using to upgrade your board and to make econ intervals isn't getting wasted by you, like, putting it into extra XP, rather than, like, keeping it for interest or units or other stuff that you can spend it on in the middle of the rounds. Anyways, 3-1 is when 1 cost rerolls roll aggressively, so you usually expect to see a spike around 3-1. This is not only for you, by the way, this is also so that you understand, based on what other people are playing, when you think that they'll spike their boards, right? If you see somebody and they look like they're playing Violet, expect that starting 3-1, they might have a Violet 3, because they're going to roll really hard on 3-1, because that's like the last round that you have level 4 odds before you naturally level to 5. 3-2 is a perfect interval to level, so a lot of people just level to either 5 or level 6, and they roll sometimes to stabilize, either 1 cost rerollers, but specifically 2 cost rerollers. So like Camille, for example, a lot of times they'll roll for Camille 2 right here, and they'll probably send it pretty deep just to try and find some upgrades to stabilize. 3-5 is another perfect interval to level. A lot of times if people are ahead, they level to 7 here, and then that's where, like, things start to get out of hand, and they could start seeing 4 costs at the end of stage 4 pretty reliably. 4-2 is a perfect interval to level. Sometimes people level on 4-1. That's usually only if you're really contested and you have a lot of gold. You level up turn earlier to try and tempo and get ahead of everybody else. But typically 4-2 is the main level. It's the last augment round, so it's like where you lock in your last augment. Most people then can make a concrete decision on what they're playing. And if they have to pivot, or if, like, you know, it's like the final piece of information that you usually look for before committing wholeheartedly to a certain comp. So not only people level 8 rolling for 4 costs, but basically every cost of unit. They're usually on 4-2. Everybody's trying to spike their board, so you want to try and match that. It's a perfect interval to level, right? The most of the lobby will be level 8 if it's a 4 cost meta. If not, it's going to be where everybody's, like, doing stuff, and it's a main power spiking. The other thing is anomaly round. You always want to save a bit of gold for anomalies, because you want to make sure that you get something on either your front unit or your back unit. I'll try and do an anomaly guide at one point. It's just that I wanted to do it during this long patch. Whenever I'm talking about guides for specific comps and facets of the game, I want to do it on this long patch that's came out today, basically. I did a patch review note for it, and then I can give you a little bit more information that way, because instead of it being irrelevant from a previous patch. Anyways, thank you for watching this guide. It ended up being a little bit longer, but hopefully it was informative. Like I said, it was more beginner focused. A lot of stuff, you know, if you're in gold, plat, diamond, like, obviously, like, these aren't guides for you in particular. It's more so just to, like, instill and talk about some good habits for beginner players, just to get, like, the ideas flowing. So, like, you know, introductory stuff, right? I'm probably gonna post multiple VODs per day now, just because I have a bunch of them on reserve, so be ready for that as well. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of day. Bye bye.